Since most of you are done with this already, I'm going to go over these right now. So first we have convert 0.532 to a fraction. So first I'm going to look at the place value of the digit on the right. So I'm going to look at the place value of 2, and I'm going to count the number of spaces it is from the ones place. So 1, 2, 3. Since it's 3 spaces from the ones digit, that means it's in the thousands. So I'm going to write over 1,000 because the rightmost digit is in the thousands place value. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 0.532. I'm going to take out the 0 and the decimal point. So just cross this out. What you'll get is 532. So I'll just write this here. And the answer to the first one is 532 over 1,000. Now I'm going to go over the second one, and it's basically the same thing for every one of these. So I'm just going to do the same thing again. First, I look at the digit on the right, which is 4, and I'll count the number of spaces it is from the ones place. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Since it's 4 spaces from the units digit, that means it's in the 10,000s. So I'm going to write over 10,000 here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the 0 and the decimal point, cross this out. You'll get 2,534. So the answer to the second one is 2,534 over 10,000. All right, representing decimals as shaded parts. Oh, I'm echoing. Well, I don't really know how to fix that because I'll just disconnect audio. All right, that should be better. So representing decimals as shaded parts. When you represent decimals as shaded parts of a whole, remember to convert the decimal to a fraction. Then you should look at the thing that is supposed to be shaded, like usually it's a grid or something, and you count the number of units you're supposed to shade. If the number of units matches the denominator of your fraction, then you can shade exactly the same number of boxes as the numerator or the number on top. So I have an example here. First, we have 0.26. So I'm going to convert this to a fraction. Look at the 6. This is in the hundreds place since it's 2 away from the units digit. So over 100. And then I'll cross out the 0 and decimal point, and you get 26 out of 100. So this is it in fraction form. Now I'm going to look at how many boxes I should shade. So I can count the number of boxes here, but I don't need to since I know it's 100 boxes. So since it's 100 boxes and the number of boxes matches the denominator, which is the number on the bottom of the fraction, I am going to shade in the number of boxes that is the same as the numerator, which is the number on top of the fraction. So that means 26 boxes. I'm just gonna try and color this in, but I can't really do it. Yeah, that's 26 boxes. Now I had this practice problem. This should be pretty quick. I know you guys can't shade it, so I'm just going to ask you to private message me how many boxes I should shade on this graph. Again, if you have any questions, you can private message me. This one was pretty easy, and a lot of you guys did this really quickly, so I'm going to do this one. So let's say, how many boxes should you shade here? We're going to look at the decimal, and it's 0.03. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert this to a fraction. So we can look at the 3, and since it's 2 digits away from the ones place, we know it's in 100th, so over 100, since an 100 is divided by 100. So what do we do next? So we had to cross out the 0 point here, like we did in all of the other problems. We get 0, 3. Since the 0 in front of 3 isn't going to do anything, I'm just going to write 3 here. So the fraction form of 0.03 is 3 out of 100. And since we have 100 boxes here and it's the same as the denominator, we're just going to shade 3 boxes. So the answer to this one is 3. So now we have expanded form with decimals. Writing expanded form is with decimals is the same thing as regular expanded form, but including decimals. When writing expanded form with decimals, you have to include all the decimal place values as well as all the normal place values that I taught you before. And as always, you should start with the highest place value and move to the lowest. So start from the left and go to the right. So I'm going to write 253.674 in expanded form. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the value of the digit on the left, 2, and since that is 1, 2, that's that's two spaces left from the ones value, which means that it's in the hundreds. So I'll write times 100, and since the digit is 2, I'm going to put it there. It's basically the same thing, but it's with including decimals. Next, I'm going to move one space to the right, and we look at 5. We know that's in the tens place since it's one digit left of the 3. So we're going to do 5 times 10, plus sign. That's not a plus sign. Let me just redo that one. Next, we have 3, and since that is the ones value, and it's the one we're basing everything on, we're going to add 3 times 1. Next, we are moving on to the decimals. Now, what we do now is we're going to look at the value of the 6. Now, that's one value right of the 3, which means it's in the tens. So I'm going to do plus 6 times 0.1 because that is the tens value. Now we go to the sevens, and we know that's in the hundreds since it's 2 places right of the 3. So we're going to do 7 times 0.1. Don't forget to add a plus sign. And next, we're going to add this 4. And since we know it's in the thousands, we're going to write 4 times 0.001. So that's how you do it in expanded form. Make sure to do it as like 2 times 100 and not 200, because some people are getting confused with that. All right, I'm going to move on to the next slide. I have expanded form practice questions. Email me the answers in private chat. And if you have any questions, you can private message me.
I'm just gonna work on a few illusions since I already know all of these stuff.
A lot of you are done with the first question, so I'm going to do that first, and I'll give you some more time to do the second one. So convert 236.363 to expanded form. Now, first, we're going to look at the value of the digit on the left, which is 2. So I'm going to circle it. And since it's 2 spaces away from the 6, which is the ones digit, that means it is the hundreds digit. So I'm going to write it as 2 times 100. Don't write it as 200 because that's not really expanded form. Expanded form is basically the digit times the place value. So that's how you want to write it. Next, we're going to look at the 3. And since that's 1 space away from the units digit, we're going to say this is the tens place. So plus 3 times 10. And if we do the same thing for the 6, we know it's the units digit itself. So we're just going to add 6 times 1. Now we move on to the decimals. And first we have 0.3. So 0.3 is 0.3 is the tens digit since it's 1 digit right of the 6. So we're going to do plus 3 times 0.1. And if we do the same thing for the 6, we'll find out it's the hundredths digit since it's 2 digits away from 6. So we're going to do plus 6 times 0.01. If we do the same thing for 3, we just get 3 times 0.001. So yeah, this is the answer to the first question. Now I'm going to give you some time to do the second question before I go over it. All right, a lot of you are done with the second one now, so I'm going to do the second one. So first we're going to look at the 8, which is in front. So we just see this one. We want to find out the place value, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces away from the ones place. So that means it is the 10,000s place value. So I'm going to do 8 times 10,000. Next, we're going to look at the 3 that's after that. So the 3 is in the thousands place since it's only 3 spaces away from the 8. 1, 2, 3. And that means that it's in the thousands place. 3 times 1,000. Next, we're going to look at the second 3. And since that's 2 spaces away, that means it is the hundreds digit plus 3 times 100. And the 7 is the tens thing, the tens place value, since it's only 1 space away from the 8, plus 7 times 10. And the 8 is the ones digit itself, so we just do plus 8 times 1. Next, we're going to look at the second 8 that's after the units digit, so which is 1 space away from the units digit on the right, which means it's in the tenths. So we add 8 times 0.1. Next, we do 4. And since 4 is 2 spaces away from the 8 here, 1, 2, we're going to make it the hundreds digit. Next, we just do the same thing for 2. We know that's the thousandths digit. And lastly, you have the 1, which is the rightmost number in the whole thing. So we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, which means it's in the 10,000s. So we just add 1 times 0.0001. This is the answer. It was a challenge question. If you got it, congrats to you. And if you didn't, that's fine. So now we have comparing decimals. When comparing decimals, do the same thing you did with comparing numbers, but with decimals. Basically, what we just do is first we look at the numbers, and if we count the number of digits it has on the left of the decimal, the number with more digits on the left of the decimal point is greater. If they have the same number of digits, start from the digits on the left and compare the numbers, and if they're the same, just move on to the next one until you reach the last one. So here we have find the greatest number. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to count the number of digits on the left of the decimal point. So they both have 2 digits, 2, 2. This means that now we have to look at the first digits on both of the numbers. So we compare these, 2 and 2, 2 equals 2. Next, we're going to move on to the 3 because it's the second highest place value we have. And since 3 is equal to 3, next we're going to move on to the tenths place value, 6 and 4. Since 6 is bigger than 4, that means that this number is greater. All right. So now we have 2 practice problems. If you have any questions, again, please private message me in Zoom chat. Otherwise, I'll leave you to do the problems.
Sure.
Okay, this one was pretty quick. I'm going to go over it now. So first we have find the greater number. We have these two decimals right here. So the first step we do is we have to count the number of digits on the left of the decimal point. So this one has 3 and this one has 2. So obviously this one is bigger. Next one, we're going to find the smaller number. Guys, when you're doing math problems, make sure to read the question and remember what they're asking you to do. So some of you sent the greater number, which is wrong because this question is asking you to find the smaller number. So I'm just going to do this right now. First, what we do is we count the number of digits in front of the decimal point, and since they both have 2, we're going to look at the first digits. So we have 8 and 8. 8 is 8. So next we're going to move on to the second digit, which is 3. 3 equals 3. Next we move on to the 10th digit, which is 6. 6 is 6. Next we move on to this one. And 3 is bigger than 2. So we have to choose the smaller number. So I'm going to choose 83.627 since that's smaller than the other one. But now we have adding and subtracting decimals. So when we add and subtract decimals, we have to do the same thing that we did when we added whole numbers. So basically, the only special thing that is here is that we just adjust the numbers so that the decimal point is basically aligning both of the numbers. And then when you're done adding, just leave it in the same place. So add these two. What we're going to do is first we had to do 23.563. And what we have to do with decimals is we have to align the decimal point. Basically, that means they have to both be in a straight line. 48.33. Now we add them. And since this number is basically alone, this 3 right here is alone, we're just going to move it down here. Now we get to the adding part. 6 plus 3 is 9, 5. Then we move on to the one on the left. 5 plus 3 is 8. And we move on to 3 plus 8. And 3 plus 8 is 11, which is bigger than 9. So what we do is we just put the 1 here and we carry over the tens digit, which is 1. And we have to add that to 2 plus 4. So 2 plus 4 plus 1 is 6 plus 1, which is 7. And then when we're done, we just see which place the decimal point is in, and we align that, put it here. So the answer is 71.893. All right, I'm going to move on to the practice problems. So I have these practice problems here. If you have any questions or if you don't get anything, you can message me. Otherwise, you guys can go to the problems. All right, a lot of you guys are done with the first one, so I'm going to go over that one. So add 36.246 and 247.362. What we do is we're going to, at first, we're going to do 36.246. And since we have to align the decimal point, just do this. Align this and 247.362. So now we have to start from the right and go to the left. So first we look at 6 and 2. That is 8. 4 plus 6 is 10. That's bigger than 9. So we have to use the units digit, which is 0, and carry over the tens digit, which is 1. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. Now we just put the decimal point here and we have to align it. 6 plus 7 is 3. Now, I mean, it's 13, but we have to carry over the 1. Put it here. 1 plus 3 plus 4 is 8. And then we just have the 2 itself, so we just put it here. So our final answer is 283.608. All right, I'm going to go over the second problem now. So basically, this one is subtraction instead of addition. I didn't really tell you guys what to do here. So it's basically the same thing as addition. We have to align the decimal points. So 236.13 minus 47.23. We have to align this. And so what we do now is we are going to start subtracting. We have to move from the digit, which is on the right, which is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. Next, we move on to 1 minus 2. And since 2 is bigger than 1, we had to add 10 to this to make it 11 minus 2, and that's 9. And next, what we do is we just take 1 from 6, so we make it 5 minus 7. And since we can't do that, we just add 10 to 5 to make it 15. 15 minus 7 is 8. We take 1 from 3. And 2 minus 4 is 8, because we just did the same thing. And we have to take 1 from 2. So the answer would be 188.90. So subtraction is basically the same thing as subtracting whole numbers, but you just have to add. You just have to align the decimal points. And also, if you have an extra 0 at the end of the number, you can just get rid of that. All right, so multiplications of decimals with whole numbers. So when multiplying decimals with whole numbers, I didn't realize that was still there. All right, when multiplying decimals with whole numbers, what you should do is multiply the digits 1 by 1, starting with the lowest value number. So it's the same thing with whole numbers, but like it's decimals. Make sure to remove the decimal, multiply the numbers, and then put it back in the same spot where it used to be. So now we're going to do multiply 24.83. So first we just take out the decimal point. We can ignore it for now, but we have to remember where it is in the number. So we know it's so we know there's two numbers before it, so we have to remember that. So two numbers before this. Now what we do is we're going to start multiplying 24.2483. Oh wait, hold on. Times 5. So first we have to look at 3 times 5 since 3 is the number on the right. So 3 times 5 is 15. We use the units digit, and we have to carry over 1 to add to 8 times 5. Next we do 8 times 5, and that's 40. And we have to add 1 to that, which makes it 41. So we just put a 1 here, and we carry over the 4. And 5 times 4 is 20, and that plus 4 is 24. So what we do is we just put 4 here and add 2 to this. Now, finally, we do 2 times 5, and that's 10, plus 2 is 12. So we just put 12 here since there's nothing else to multiply. So we have 12,415, but we forgot to put the decimal in the place where it used to be. So I'm going to do that now. So in the original number, the decimal has 2 numbers before it. So I'm going to put it in the same spot here. So now the answer is 124.15. I have more practice problems on the, well, never mind. We don't have practice problems. Division of decimals by whole numbers. When dividing decimals, make sure to divide starting from the left to the right, just like what we did with whole numbers. Keep track of where the decimal is in division. Once the unit number is unable to be divided, you put the decimal in there. When dividing with decimals, there shouldn't be a remainder. And if you have a remainder, you should add a decimal and add a 0 after that. So basically just multiply the value by 10, and then you can keep dividing until you get 0. So now what we do is divide 253.2 by 4. So I'm going to write it like this. Now we try to divide the 2 by a 4, and since we can't do that, we're just going to move on to the 5. Now we have 25 divided by 4, and the highest multiple of 4 that is less than 25 is 24. So we know we just write 6 on top since 6 times 4 is 24. Now we get 13, and we can get 12. 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 is the lowest multiple of 4 that is less than 13. So we just do 3, and we just write 12 here. Now we have 1.2. Since 1 can't be divided by 4, we have to add the decimal point, and we have to start dividing in the decimals. And this is the point where you add the decimal up here. So this is how you do it. Then 12 divided by 4 is 3. So we just write the 3 after the decimal point. The answer is 63.3. All right, so let's practice. I have practice problems for you guys. If you have any questions, you can private chat me. A lot of you are done with the first two questions, so I'm going to go over those ones. First, we have multiply 2.5 by 5. So what we do here is we're going to write it like this, 2.5 times 5. We had to take out the decimal, but remember where it is. It has one number behind it. So what we do is we multiply 5 by 5. We have 25, so we just put the 5 here and carry over the 2. 2 times 5 is 10, so we just add 2 to that, which is 12. The answer is 125. And we put the decimal point in the same place it's supposed to be, which is after the 5, right here. Answer for the first one is 12.5. Now I am going to go over the second one. So 3.26 by 5. This one's slightly harder than the first one, but it's basically just the same thing. 3.266 times 5. Remove the decimal point, but remember where it is. 5 times 6 is 30, so we write 0 here, and we carry over the 3. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 3, which is 13. So we have to write the 3 here, and we carry over 1. 3 times 5 is 15 plus 1 is 16. So we get 1630. So we have to put the decimal point in the same place it was in before. So we just look at where it was. As you can see, it has 2 digits behind it. So we just put it as the same thing here. So 16.30. And if you have an extra 0 at the end, you can take that out because that doesn't really add anything. So the answer is 16.3. All right, next we're going to look at the third one, which is dividing this time. So we have to do 32.4 by 3. What we do here, we put the dividing sign here, 32.43. So first we do 3 divided by 3, that's 1. We just write 1 here. And now we have 2 by itself, and we moved on to the next digit. And since we can't divide that by 3, we just write a 0 up here and the point, because we moved on to the decimals now. We have 4 now. And what we do is we divide 2.4 by 3. So 24 divided by 3, basically, that is 8. So 10.8, 24, that makes 0. So that's the end of dividing. What we get is 10.8. All right, I'm going to go over the fourth problem now. So 25.43 divided by 5. So we just write it like this, 25.435. So first we look at 5 and 2. Now 2 can't be divided by 5. So what we're going to do is divide 25 by 5. And we know that's 5. So we just write 5 here, 25. Now 0.4. Since there's nothing on the left of the decimal point, we write the decimal point in here. Now we have 4 left. But since we can't divide that by 5, we have to add the 3 at the end. So 0. So we can see the highest multiple of 5 that's less than 43 is 40. So we just write 8 here and 40. Now we move to 3, and we have to add an extra digit, 0. So now what we do is we know that 30 divided by 5 is 6. So we just minus 30. That would be 0. So the answer to the fourth one is 5.086. All right, next slide. Estimating operations with decimals. Now, this is basically the same thing as regular estimating and rounding, but you have to round to the nearest one. When estimating, adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing decimals, always round to the nearest whole number, and then you can get rid of the decimal. And then you can do the operation, but without the decimal. That's basically what estimating is with decimals. So here I have estimate the sum of 25.32 and 37.69. So first I'm going to round these to the nearest whole number. First we have 25.32. We can see that the whole number it's closest to is 25. So we just write 25 here. Next, we have 37.69. We have to round that. And 37.69 is closest to 38. So we write 38 here. Now we can just do the operation. So it says the sum. So we just add these together. We get 63. Now I'm going to have some word problems, since estimating is not really necessary, because like you don't really need that for any math problems, but it's like a good thing to know nonetheless. So now I have some word problems for you guys that involve the stuff you just learned. So I'm going to let you guys do this, and if you have any questions, you can private chat me. Otherwise, just go do the problems. Okay, now I'm gonna go over the word problems because we're running out of time. So Mr. Barnes bought 2.4 pounds of meat. Mr. Clark bought 1.35 pounds more than him. How much did they buy altogether? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to find out the number of pounds of meat that Mr. Clark bought. So we just do 2.4 plus 1.35. Make sure to align the decimal point. What we get is 5, 4 plus 3 is 7, and 2 plus 1 is 3. So the answer is 3.75 for Mr. Clark. But now we have to find out how much they bought in total. So we have to add 2.4 plus 3.75. So what we do is 5, 4 plus 7 is 11. So we just write 1 here and carry over 1. 2 plus 3 plus 1 is 6. So the answer would be 6.15. Now the second one we have is Sam had $108.25. We spent $43.5 on presents and spent $12.20 on food. How much did he have left? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 43.05 and 12.20 because this is the total amount of money that he spent. So 43.05 plus 12.20. So 5255. This is the amount of money he spent. Now next we're going to do is we're going to subtract that from 108.25. Now we just subtract this, we get 0, 0, 8 minus 5 is 3, 0 minus 5 is, well, we can't do that, so we have to borrow 1. 10 minus 5 is 5, and we just minus 1 here. 1 minus 1 is 0. So the final answer is $53. Now I'm going to move on to the final problem. So this one, Mr. Woods had a bag of sugar. He sold 38.25 kilograms and split the rest equally into 6 bags. If he had 0.75 kilograms of sugar in each bag, how much do you have in the beginning? This problem is basically it's a challenging problem. It's like a challenge problem. If you figure this out, good job. And if you don't, it's fine. Can you stop spamming eggs in chat? Because people are trying to concentrate. Thank you.
I was just telling them how to go and get the moving background, the one behind me right here, and most of them are just typing egg. I don't know why.
Class is over in well, actually, I'll just go over the word problem.
Okay, you got here. I got here.
Guys, I'll just go over the word problem and then class is over. So Mr. Woods had a bag of sugar. He sold 38.25 kilograms and split the rest. I already said this. So first, what we're going to do is we know he has 6 bags and 0.75 kilograms are in each bag. So what we have to do, 0.75 times 6. So 5 times 6 is 30. Just write 0 and add 3 to this. 7 times 6 is 42. Plus 3 is 45. Just do this. 0 times 6 is 0. And we just add 4 here. So the answer would be 4.50. This is the amount of sugar he has in all of the bags. Now we know he sold this much sugar, so we had to add that in order to find out how much he had in the beginning. So 4.50 plus 38.25. So 5, 7, 4 plus 8 is 12. Put the 2 here, carry over the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. So final answer is $42.75. Guys, I'm going to assign homework tomorrow. Uh, this week, only 3 people gave me the homework again. So next week, I expect more of you to hand me the homework. Other than that, there's nothing I really have to say. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye. Bye.